For the most part, when you're working on a real problem that is initiated by you, especially if it's personal, it's harder because you have a lot more work to do to figure out what you want to do. There's no prompts. You have to figure it kind of out yourself. And that makes it harder. However, I will say this one thing. When we do this Law and Order version of a prompt, it also is harder if you are trying to figure out what the prompt is asking you because it's someone else's question. And so I think here, interpreting what is being told to you in the prompt, which is the last thing. And by the way, the other prompts, I've deleted them from the Excel file. So I can just click on this and hit backspace and it will go away. And I replaced it with the new prompts. So here, Colonel Nelson's asking some questions. He's mainly asking my interpretation of it. You will have your own interpretation as well. But my interpretation of it is that as a total number of medals, we're doing pretty good as the USA. However, we have an equal amount of gold, silver, and bronze in that total number of medals. And winning a gold should be better than winning a silver. On the other hand, China has also won the same amount of golds, maybe less silver and bronze. But then you have some others that have more silver and bronze. So you want to ask yourself, like, is there a way that I can account for, instead of just total raw number of medals, I have a weighting on these things? And it's much like your ACFT score, like if you do the deadlift, they don't record your amount of weight. They record a deadlift score out of 60. And so all of your events are normalized. So they don't just sum everything up and say, this is your raw score overall, because if they did that, your runtime would be mixed up with these other things and they're not all the same. And so that's really what you're doing here is we're going to make a score. And up here, there are two ways to make a score. One is the English method. The English method has 5 points for every gold, 3 points for every silver, and 1 point for every bronze. And the Swedish method is the same thing, but 3, 2, and 1. And so here, Colonel Nelson wants you to actually figure out how to put this method in, score every one of them. So really what you want to do, and I'm going to actually add a little text box in here. Insert, I don't see my text box. So really what you want is a formula and total weighted score. Let's just do the English one. If my defining variables, I'm not going to write them down, but X is going to be the total number of gold medals, Y is going to be the total number of silver, and Z is going to be the total number of bronze medals. So if I want the weighted score, it'd be 5 times X plus 3 times Y plus 1 times Z. That's the weighted score. So I need to somehow get this put inside to this cell. And Colonel Nelson's given you the formula. Let's use our brains. Let's look at that total weighted score up there and think about what has to happen. There's 2 ways you can do this. You can literally go equals 5 times the cell C11 plus 3 times the cell D11 plus 1 times the cell E11. That's one way to do it. And I can just scroll this down now the way I showed you earlier so that I can now do a head-to-head comparison with each of us, each of the countries. And I can see like, oh, we're still top dog here. However, that's not how Colonel Nelson wants you to do that, because he wants you to see another skill from the from Excel. I really want, let's say I change the English method one day and I change this to 4 now. If I change that to 4, that screws everything up, and my new English method calculations are off. So if I put this 5 back here, and then see, like if I change this to 4, the numbers here don't change. I'd have to redo it again with 4 instead of 5. So what he would like you to do, so that you don't have to worry about that, is instead of putting 5 here, he wants you to put $4. And because that's the cell, see, it lit up just now. And over here, instead of the 3, he wants you to put $4 because that's the cell the 3 is in. And then over here, instead of the 1, you would put $4. Why do we have the dollar symbol? Well, here's a thing. If I don't have the dollar symbol and I start scrolling downward, what's going to happen, let's do that actually. Let's see, the 374 stayed the same, and I'm going to show you a little trick. If you double click on this small cross, it'll scroll everything down for you. So it's already scrolled everything down. So the numbers did not change. But if I didn't put that dollar symbol in, let's not put the dollar symbol in here, in just the first one so I can see what happens. I get the right answer for G11, but if I go here, the 305 is not going to stay 305, it's going to change. And that's because over here, instead of staying on C4, where the number 5 is, it went to C5, which is a totally different number. And if I scroll down even further, I get C6, which there's nothing in C6, so it's going to be a 0. And so I don't want my first weight to change from the location of C5. And so that's why we put, or C4, sorry, that's why we put the dollar symbol so that it holds that fixed. Anytime I want those numbers to not scroll down as I'm scrolling down the formula, the dollar symbol between the letter and the number holds that tight. And so now if I go down and scroll down 1, it goes back to 305. And if I look in that cell, the $4 stayed $4. Here, remember, when I didn't have the dollar symbol, it just kept going, $5, $6. If I scroll down one more, I get 165 as it should be. So that's what you should learn from that one. I'm not going to show you the Swedish method. I want you to figure out how to do the Swedish method on your own, which is the 3, 2, 1, and see what happens. And you can ask me for help.